figure out how much of it is pleasurable. That's basically it. If it's not giving you pleasure, you shouldn't be doing it. This is, I think, an advice that I can give in terms of life as well.
Produced by Malik.
What is going on, world? Welcome back to Aqua Malik. It's Vlogmas, everybody. Vlogmas. It's 20 days till Christmas. So every single day from today, coming up to Christmas, I will do my best to give you guys at least one single video. So subscribe if you haven't, because a lot of you guys have not subscribed yet. So you don't want to miss out on this cool content that's coming up over the next 20 days. Plus, there's a lot of cool stuff coming up in between that I have already planned. So you get a lot of cool videos. And also, if you haven't checked out yesterday's video, I got 5 new zebra plecos. They're little guys. There's a lot of valuable information on yesterday's video. I'll put a link to it up here so you guys can go check that out at the end of this video. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at how much time I personally spend in my fish room. How long does it take for me personally out of my time to operate all this fish room? So, I have a full-time job. When it's not COVID, I work in film and television. And right now, I'm actually probably going to return back to work as soon as this virus mess is over. So, maybe it's next year, maybe a year from there. It doesn't matter where my career, my other businesses are. I love that job. So, I am going to return to it, and it pays me quite handsomely. I also love doing this. This is my passion. This is my hobby. It does make money, yes, but it is what I love doing. You know, I love breeding fish, okay? Now, the first thing I'm going to say is, before I say anything, I think this is the most important thing I should be saying, is that this is something that should be enjoyable. It is something that you should be doing out of pleasure, for your pleasure. It should be a passion, and it should be thoroughly enjoyable. The moment it becomes not enjoyable, the moment it becomes something of a chore, then it's time to reconsider scaling down, or giving it a break for a few years. Because if it's not enjoyable, there's no point in doing it. Nobody should be doing anything in life that they don't enjoy. Even my actual job outside of this, I do it because I love it. I don't do it because of the money. It does pay me quite well. I do it because I love that job. So I love it, and that's why I work in that field, and that's why I do. The same thing applies here. I love my fish, and I love creating new fish. I love breeding new fish. I love breeding the existing forms, as well as I love creating new lines and new varieties if I can, like line breeding and stuff. I thoroughly enjoy evolution and all this stuff, and therefore this is something I enjoy. So the amount of time I spend on it, it does not feel like work. Okay, so let's look at how long I actually do spend here. On an average day, I spend about half an hour feeding the fish. Now, I've actually timed myself the last few days now. I've tried to see if there is any day that I actually spend more than half an hour feeding my fish. Usually, it takes me about 20 minutes to feed everybody, all the fry, all the adults, and everything. And I spend about 10 minutes after that going over and seeing if anybody is missing food, if any tank has eaten more than they should, if any tank has too much food, whatever that might be. I just double check everything to make sure everybody's good. Usually some tanks get seconds doing that second run around, but that's about it. That entire process takes me less than a half an hour per day. So aside from that, I do spend a lot of time looking at the fish. Even days I go to work, I come home from work, I'll feed the fish. That's the first thing I would do when I come home from work. And I would sit here probably exactly where I'm sitting, and I would crack a beer and I'll look at my fish for an hour or so. So that's something I do, and I don't consider that a part of the maintenance aspect of things. So that's not a real work. So that I don't want to count those 7 hours a week that I might spend looking at them. Now, the biggest thing for me personally in terms of time consumption is my water changes. I do everything manually, so my water change takes up a quite significant portion of my time. And I did time myself because I do understand how long this takes for me usually on a week where I actually do go to work full time. So when I am working full time, I have time this, and I take about 16 hours a week to do water changes, and I don't do all the tanks. It's just the tanks that need the water changes, like the Pleco tanks. All of them would be getting a water change once a week usually, to every 10 days or so. I've actually noticed that because I'm not working and I don't have my regular work schedule, I have slacked a little bit on the water changes. Not to the point where I'm neglecting them, but like like tanks when they should be getting every 7-day water change, I could just say, you know what, like today, right now, I should be doing water changes, and I'm making this video for you instead, and I push the water changes to tomorrow and to Tuesday, just because I can, because I'm here, right? So regardless, it takes me about 16 hours, 15 to 16 hours, 2 8-hour days, to do all the water changes. But that's only like a week where I have to do all the tanks. I mean, a lot of the tanks don't need a weekly water change, and when I'm working full time, I only have these 10 or 12 Pleco tanks. I have my big group of, my 1 pair of angels or 2 pairs of angels, and several other groups of fish that are in planted tanks that have underground filters. The cories don't need a weekly water change. Sometimes it actually works out for the cories when I don't do water change for a month or so, because that stimulates a dry season or whatever. And then also the Pleco tanks, like some of these tanks don't really require weekly water change. Some of them can go for 2 weeks. So I kind of play with that, and on average I would spend an entire day, a 10 to 12 hour day on a week where I do have work on water changes. And if I am not working full time, I usually spend 2 full days, or 2 8-hour to 10-hour days. So about 16 to 20 hours on average. On the high end, where the entire fish room is full of fish and fry, and I'm buying new fish constantly, and my tanks are all full of fish, to the points where I'm working full time and the tanks are consolidated. All the fish are now moved into tanks where they're taking care of. Those tanks get the best care, and then the tanks that don't have any fish don't need any care. So like that works out too. So I play with it a little bit, but overall it's not a huge thing for me personally. It's usually my Saturday and my Sunday. I don't actually go out on the weekends. If I have a friend come over, they would come and spend an hour or two outside or in the house, I guess, before COVID, and we would drink a beer or whatever, and I'll get back to my water changes. And usually, pretty much the entire Saturday is spent doing water changes, some part of Friday night. So that's pretty much one of the main time-consuming things for me personally. And I love it because I like changing water, because when I change water, I usually find baby fish in my Pleco tanks. When I change water, my fish spawn. And, I have a lot of benefits of doing that, so I enjoy it quite a bit. And I do also have OCD, so like, once I start cleaning the fish room, I kind of want all my tanks to look nice, at least the ones I can see from where I'm sitting. This is my main fish room, this section here, and the tanks that are on the other side is essentially, tanks that I use right now, but I don't consider all of that my main fish room yet, but I am doing some changes. I'm going to create this into an area where I can see most of the tanks from where I'm sitting, so then it would become a point where I would consider all of it my main fish room. But regardless, I don't want to digress too much. Conservatively speaking, I spend about 20 hours or a little bit more or a little bit less per week on running the fish room. So that's a part-time job, essentially. And that's how I see it. Even before this channel, I've been doing this. This is my hobby for the last 37 years now. Okay? I've been good at this for that equal amount of time, and I love it every single day of it. And it does not feel like a job, but it is my part-time job. It's essentially a second career, you would say, in this case, or whatever you want to call it, that I can always depend on. So it requires that amount of a sacrifice on my week, on every given week. So 20 hours or give or take a week is not too much of a huge sacrifice for me personally, to have my passion come to life and to have it with me every single day, and to have this investment into my life and into my future that potentially could also pay dividends in the future, as well as long as these fish are alive and they're breeding. So that's all positive for me, and I think that's the cost of having that fish room. So to each person, the amount of time that they are willing to sacrifice towards something that is a passion or a goal or a hobby might be different. So figure out how many hours on a week you want to invest into this, and then go from there. And if it becomes too much, then stop, break down some tanks, get rid of some fish that you pick the ones that you think you really want to have. You know what I mean? And if you do want to have more, then find ways to make it enjoyable. Like breeding fish is quite an enjoyable thing for me. I mean, I personally don't like keeping fish that I cannot breed, but then it's not for everybody. I know people that don't like breeding fish. They don't want their fish to breed because it's a problem, because not everybody has the means to get rid of fish that they produce. So these are all things to consider, and go from there. Figure out how much of it is pleasurable. That's basically it. If it's not giving you pleasure, you shouldn't be doing it. This is, I think, an advice that I can give in terms of life as well. Anything in life, when it stops being pleasurable, then you should not be doing it. We should not be doing things that are not bringing us joy. So when something, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job, whether it's a hobby, whether it's a person that's in your life, whether it's a friend, a partner, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, whatever, doesn't matter. If they're not bringing value to your life, if they're not bringing joy to your life, if they're not improving your life, and if they're not making your situation any better than it is without them, then they are essentially useless in your life, and they need to go at that point. Okay, so that's how I see life, and that's how I see this entire thing. Hope this helps somebody out, and comment below and let me know your thoughts and how long you guys spend on your own fish room and your fish tanks, because I would love to know those stuff. As always, thank you so much for your love and support, and stay tuned, because every single day of the next 20 days you're gonna get a video up till Christmas. So happy Vlogmas, everybody. Thank you so much for your love and support. I'll see you tomorrow. God bless you all.